past my 2:05 tap dancing time. So, um, given the sort of attendance here, the this meeting agenda might pivot a little bit, which is okay. But did want to I had a little bit and so everybody see my screen, I assume they can.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Um, my first sort of order of business was to simply ensure that everybody got my email and were able to like access the share stuff, was able to get in, was able to just, are we good on access is I guess. So Jackson, Ben, Kyle, Dave, like, are we good on access? Were you able to click in and see all that? Kyle's good. Jackson, you
Yep.
okay? Ben's good. Okay, great. Um, Dave's good. Awesome. So there we go. That was sort of my first thing. Is just wanting to ensure that everybody, because we didn't have perfect attendance by any means in the last meeting either. So just sort of keeping everybody kind of connected through our um, just our meeting agenda structure and our meeting minutes. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that they can go there. I did my best to try to provide a touch of organization to the folder before sending it out. So that'll be our home base. Trying to One of my top five Gallup strengths is a ranger, so I often probably over arrange stuff every once in a while. So forgive me for that. Um, so that was that's what I wanted to do. So now that we have that, um, I wanted to do two things today, just kind of in the spirit. And I didn't know who was going to be here and sort of how this meeting was going to go. But drawing this meeting up in my head was going to sort of reopen the conversation that we had last week about, or last time we met, last month, about the instrument and sort of what was percolating with you about reflections and questions and conversations, and sort of like just kind of rhapsodize again with letting TJ and Tori kind of talk to you about the history of the instrument or if you had questions about it. So I did want to do that a little bit and yield a little bit of time there. And then depending on how the sort of the group started to segment themselves sort of in their previous reflections, we could have went as far as putting us into breakout rooms and talking about the two different work streams, or we could have just talked about it. But again, the lower attendance might make that imprudent. So I then also, you see, homework. I had imaginations to believe that I was going to sort of send out a form to collect uh, your preferences of, do you kind of want to go engagement and communication? Do you want to go survey, instrument, and research? So that's kind of how we were going to lead today. I wanted to hear from people who were attending Campus Home Live and just sort of get a straw poll of those people who might be attending. And then if they are, maybe find a little bit of time to have some time together. So if we've completed the homework by sort of the end of the month, then I would call ourselves in a good spot. We're not going to try to boil the ocean all at once here. So, but keep us going. Another Gallup strength is activator. So we'll arrange this thing and we'll start moving a little bit. So that's my agenda today. So let's go back up to the reflect on the instrument. Is there anything after hearing from TJ and Tori last time we were together that has sort of been sticky? Is there anything that you wanted to ask more questions about? Is there anything that um, you have been ruminating on about the instrument itself? Because again, we wanted to sort of make some meaningful improvements, small meaningful improvements along the new future here. So Jackson, Ben, Kyle, Dave, has there been any ahas? Any want more information? Any I've been thinking.
Well, I just had a couple things I wanted to say. I was looking over the instrument and I didn't know what this would look like, but if we were to like be able to send out like a collection email to certain individuals and then pull the data into the instrument like that way where it could go to multiple people instead of just more like than the one person in charge was kind
Uh,
of a thought I had because just from what I seen, the way, like I said, it kind of goes to one person, but I didn't know if breaking that down to where we could get more people involved and collect more data that way, something on those lines.
yeah,
What?
I do think barrier to submission is a really key point. Tori probably can't fully break the instrument down, but I think there's probably some comments you might have in that region.
Yeah. Um, so the data collection worksheet was created years ago with the intent of data entry by multiple people, and then whoever's given the task of putting it into the CHI would take that document and do it. So sort of you could pass it around as a living document amongst whoever owns the data, and then have a central place to put it. And then one person would enter it. Although I do know of schools where they delegate, you're responsible for entering data for this section, you're responsible for this section. And on the back end, I am able to give data entry access to multiple people. That is a possibility that can happen. I just need to know who should have access, and then I can make that change. Um, which some people know about and we try to advertise, but maybe we need to do a better job of that.
That's what I was going to say is maybe we need to do an enhanced effort of the data collection worksheet as a way to collaborate before the ultimate submission to get more people. Because as TJ suggested too last time, like when we ask questions about dining, half the people who are even the
Right.
implement the enterers of it don't have that information, and they have to go fishing for it, which contributes to low response rates in certain sections. So I think you're poking on a proper thought. The method for that's something very interesting. TJ?
Well, the other thing I know, Tori, you'll probably second this, we want to be really careful about is who is the authoritative data source on a per institution basis. So, and I'm thinking about this through, doing some work with NACIS, who has talked about like, let's send out surveys to all membership and have them respond on behalf of their institution. And the reality is, well, what if 8 different people from the same institution respond? And how are you going to ensure that you have the authoritative source on the specific data so that you can, because this is a benchmarking database, so that you can do the benchmarking in an apples to apples kind of way. And so that's always going to be a concern. I do think making sure there's a mechanism. I think Tori's done a ton of work on this, making sure there's a mechanism for whoever the voting member is for the institution has a way to designate people to fill things out is really important. Make it as easy as possible. Um, and Tori, I don't know your thoughts on this. One of the things I would be fearful about is if you send it out to too many people, do you get conflicting data back relative to who is the authoritative data source per institution?
Yeah, I think that's why there's still our policy and practice is that the person designated as the SHO in our records is that person in terms of data entry access. They alone have that ability, but they can then designate others that they want or task with entering it for their campus. I think I'm fine with everyone having access to the data collection worksheet so they can just simply see what's in the instrument and become familiar with it. It's just then, who has the ability to put that information into the CHI, and that's where we control things pretty tightly.
But if I'm not mistaken, an SHO or the voting member has the ability to designate someone else to put
Mm-hmm.
data in. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. In our
Okay.
old system, they could change that themselves in the portal. Now it's through me. So, but all they have to do is just send an email that lists who the people are on their roster, and it takes me about 5 minutes
Yeah.
or
And it could be
less.
multiple per institution. So they could say, like, here's my facilities person, here's my finance person,
Yes.
here's my
As many
whatever.
as they want. There's no
Yeah.
limit. Yeah.
Do you think that's to go back to Kyle's point of like we just need to make it easier for people to gain access to put the data in or know they can put the data in? Do you think it's well known that SHOs can have designees and do that work? Like, do they know it's easy?
It's in our messaging that we send out to
So no,
SHOs.
no.
It's on our website. I try to always mention it in conversation when I'm talking about the CHI and like participating. But it's a matter like who's reading the emails we send. How closely are they reading the emails we send? um yeah, I mean, I'm open to ideas for how we can better inform people about how easy it is and that they can designate others to do this on their campus. An unlimited number. They could, if they decided every person on their staff roster should have access, I could make that happen for them. But um I don't know if we would have anyone maybe at a really small school, but yeah, and usually at the small schools it's the SHO that does it. But yeah.
I was kind of more on the lines of also breaking the data down, like where it's not like all in one tool, maybe just kind of different sections for different departments where it's just their stuff and it's not. Like I said, I'm fairly new to looking at it, and it was just kind of a first basis opinion, like, where to go type thing. So maybe people that are new to it, if it was just structured more for individuals, like departments, maybe. It's just a thought.
Yep. I appreciate you sharing perspectives, Kyle. I think that's good. Gets us started on it for sure.
Yeah, and Kyle, I think it speaks to a bigger theme of, in my opinion, the CHI is, as many things are at ACUHO-I, written from the perspective of the large public land grant institution. It's written from the perspective of the 10 institutions that everybody hears about in the news that represent a very small slice of higher education. And the survey tool is reflective of that in the way it asks questions, in the way it divides data, and the way. I don't know if that's a problem. I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but I think what you're bringing up is sort of nods toward that reality. And we see it all the time when we're working with like a small private liberal arts institution with a 4-year live-on requirement and trying to get valuable apples to apples data out of the CHI is a little bit challenging in their context. Somewhat because of the way that the survey instrument is actually written.
For sure. Thanks, Kyle, for starting us off. What other ahas and sticky comments have there been that we can ruminate on? Dave's back in another form. Okay.
Yep, I got the force restart message, and then when I went to left the meeting and shut everything off, it said 8 minutes. So here I am.
Gotta love tech. All right. What are things we want to talk about?
I'm curious if folks have questions about the two paths and what it would entail, or questions about some of the detail on the two paths. Folks came back to this meeting, or at least a handful of people did, indicating that, hey, I'm still interested in working on the CHI thing. I'm curious if people have thoughts, questions, concerns about, am I more of an engagement path person, or am I really interested in working on the instrument itself and getting that advanced and evolved? And so if folks have questions about those paths, I think we'd love to hear them.
I'll just say both are extremely valuable and needed. So if you're feeling strongly one way or the other, let us know because we need you for both.
Preach, sister.
So I'm probably more interested in the instrument. and the data collection side.
Great. And Dave, I don't think you were here in the last meeting, were you?
No.
Cool. We definitely spent some time talking about, I don't know if you got to watch the video. We spent some time talking about what kinds of things we would be tackling in that context. And so
Okay.
if feel free to go back and watch the video, but if you have specific questions about that, or if you have specific stumbling points that you already see in the data collection or in the instrument, I think happy to talk about that as well.
Sure.
For context, Dave is our past chair of this committee.
Right. Yeah, he's familiar for sure.
Yep.
I would say this is strong attendance, so kudos.
Well, it's a little weaker than it was last time, so I'm worried about people. Jackson's going to be like, "What the hell? I'm out. I'm late later next time." Kyle can't leave, so I know that.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm probably more interested in the survey instrument and research too, but I mean I wouldn't mind being part of both the engagement and communication part as well. If it works out that way. I did have a couple questions about the like what people use the instrument for, like in everything. What are most people using this tool for? Like as far as doing the reporting and everything at the end of the day, what are they gaining the most out of this?
Ooh, interesting question.
Good one. I've got my opinion, but I think Tori, you're at the heart of it, right? Like people reach out to you and ask you questions. I don't want to
They
shade
do.
people's perspective, but
I
go.
was just thinking that I don't know if there's like a typical use case. I think it does vary a lot, campus to campus. I mean, I do get some common questions. Um, Staffing ratios, compensation, like those are, I sort of say like low hanging fruit because pretty much everyone has
Mhm.
questions about those. Um, More recently, I've been getting more facilities related questions, some budget questions. But yeah, I would say most of the outreach I get is sort of in the staffing, compensation, some things about RAs specifically. Yeah, but it varies. Like I never know what a question is going to be. When I see that it's about the CHI, I couldn't
Yeah.
guess what it would be when it comes in. There's just so much data. It's hard to
Yeah.
say.
I don't know if you have a good handle on this or not, Tori, but I think it's fair to say a lot of people use the CHI, one, in a reactive way to respond to a question they're being asked in a moment by their board, by their VP, by their somebody, and they're trying to answer that. And then two, in a way to support a thing that they want to do. So that happens a lot with compensation, where people are like, "Oh, how much does the average associate director of Res Life make? Because my HR people are pushing back on me." So it becomes, and the reason I put it in those two buckets is because I think it runs counter to what the CHI was intended to be. It is a defensive stance, and the CHI was intended to be a strategic tool for proactively moving the industry forward. And I think that's part of the charge of this group is to start to turn the tide on that a little bit. So that's my opinion and my take. I don't know if you feel that in the ways you get asked questions or answer them, Tori.
I would say most requests would fall in those two buckets. Yes. Few people are using it with long-term thinking in mind. It's typically an in the moment issue or
Mhm.
question that they feel urgently that they need some data for, whether it's um, salary increase or, like you said, some type of we already want to do this, so let's find some data to support this to justify it to the board or whoever.
Tell us we're right.
Occasionally, I will get requests from people who are working on a more long-term project and are wanting to inform that with some benchmarking data, but those are, I'd
Um,
say, few and far between.
Yeah.
and it's
So
not
I
wrong. It's
Dave,
just a huge missed opportunity, right? That oftentimes just because we have anonymized data, we're looking at big swaths of industry-wide data and trend analysis. And we can quickly take, a client's data, compare it to the CHI data, and identify like just big opportunities and red flags. And that's a more strategic opportunity to say, oh, here's where the industry is going, and here's how it's not in alignment with where you're going. Is there further exploration that needs to happen? Like, I think everybody can start to use the tool in that way.
Yeah. Dave, you want to add to that? You had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say that exact same thing. That's how we use it here. Is we, just look at where we are compared to whatever comparison group we're going to use, and usually then also Carnegie class and public or private, and to see where we line up, to look for, are there places where we're out of alignment with what is maybe more typical across the industry for whatever meant for across all of the different things that the CHI grabs, and then have a conversation with ourselves about, are we okay with that variance, or why do we vary from everybody else in that regard, and is it okay, is it just an idiosyncrasy of our campus or a way we focus,
Yeah.
or is it another type of low-hanging fruit from a strategic perspective where it identifies a growth opportunity for us?
That's great. So if I'm hearing you correctly, are you taking the data and aligning your data with it and just like annually doing this type of comparison?
Yeah,
Is that
I do that. We do this. I do this annually. Like every time the results publish, you just go through and look at the reports, and you're there along with your cohort, whatever cohort you've put together to compare yourself against, and it shows you where you fall. Um,
Yeah.
Usually as a percent, right? So, like, are you at the mean? Are you at the average, or how far away from the average are you? I think is the measurement that it has, and then we just look for variances where we're far away from the middle, or we're way outside of the spread, or whatever the case may be. And then we have a short conversation with ourselves around why is that the case, and if we identify it then as an opportunity, then we start doing some planning around that. And RA staffing is one that we've identified, actually, that um, some of our numbers look a little high, and some of our other numbers look a little low. So how do we, why is that the case? And then do we want to rebalance things, or just prepare a narrative in advance so that we're not playing defense, and talk about that as part of, like, upfront, the purpose of the position is to do these things, whatever the case may be.
that's that's some
That's super
stellar
helpful. Thanks.
that's some stellar work there to be able to do that. That's great. Way to go. That gives me an idea. Thanks, thanks for doing it. That's great. Um, Ben raise his hand. What do you got, Ben?
Yeah, so I do have a question. I know we made mention of the fact that we are going to check the instruments, the questions, and then all of that. But then I was also thinking if there has been any research that has been done with regards to like the campus index as a whole. And this question like goes for like Tori, if there has been like any publication on CHI, like maybe a PhD student like doing any research specifically with like the CHI master students or anything like that.
So there are reports, annual reports that I work on that are released. Occasionally we've had like faculty or researchers request access to data. We never release identifiable data, depending on the request and what it's for. We have made arrangements to share data in the past in limited amounts, but yeah, I mean, for example, funded research grant proposals are under final review right now, and one of those proposals included using CHI data, which I don't know. Don't know whether it would be approved, but part of their research would be, collecting their own data and then supplementing what they find, with CHI data. And I don't, it's neither here nor there because they never made a formal request, but it was included. I was like shocked to read this, like, oh, this is good to know that they want to use the data, but they never asked if that was possible. But we do receive those requests sometimes. Mostly it's me, and now TJ and his team who are really digging into the data. Um, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean there are
We are actually working on something right now, right? Like
yeah, a big something.
a
Yeah.
big something, right? So we're in progress at looking at this is where the CHI is just so powerful, is because Tori has the ability to link it up to iPad's data. And now ACUHO-I becomes the only people in the world who have access to the places that those two really big, powerful data sources connect. And we can start to make some strong statements about the implications of staffing models, as an example, on student success. I promise you, if you go look for the research on the staffing ratios and the impact on student success, you're not going to find much, right? You're going to find practices and you're going to find people saying, here's what I think should be in place. But there's just not a lot of evidence because the data has never existed in the same place before. iPads has student success from a retention graduation perspective, and it also has the student demographic information in terms of who you're serving. And now CHI has the RA ratio data and the student staffing structure data. And so we can start to connect those dots and say, if you are this kind of institution with this kind of student population, the question is, does it matter what your RA ratio is? And we're going to do like we actually have a presentation in Orlando to start to do some initial finding stuff on that, to speak to this notion of, like, in some contexts, I hate to tell you this, it doesn't matter, because of who they recruit and what kind of institutional context and everything like that. In other contexts, it matters a whole lot. And so now we're going to be able to start to say things about that no one in the world has ever been able to actually say. And I think there's a lot of that to come. And that's another part of what this committee can do, is help make sure we're collecting the right information to be able to say really, really important things about the state of our industry and where we go.
What time and location is that presentation, TJ?
I don't know, man. I got a couple of them on there. I got to look at my calendar. I don't know the answer. I don't know that I've received it yet. I'm waiting. Mandy was working on it. I don't know the answer. Maybe Tuesday morning, maybe.
Great.
I don't know the answer.
All right.
I got a lot on here. I don't know.
Is there TJ, Tori, are there anything else at this juncture that you find interesting or prudent to talk about?
I'll just pose a question to the group, which is that in the midst of my report writing, I'm always interested in feedback and ideas about what topics should actually be focused on. I don't want it to be Tori thinks this is interesting, so she's going to write a report about it. I want it to be things that are actually going to be useful for the people doing the work. So if you have anything that you're like, man, I really wish we had this in a report that we could access, or this would really help my department if we knew X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't know. I'm always looking for feedback on those things. So now would be the time, not now like today, but now like during the summer is when I typically have the most time to work on these things. So that would be the time to tell me.
I'm just excited to get to work on shaping the questions and the data that's collected. And so, as we march down this path, if folks are eager to start working on that, I think we have some low-hanging fruit that we can tackle quickly, and then some longer range opportunities that we've got to be really thoughtful about and make sure we debate the way questions are asked. But I think there's some easy stuff and some hard stuff, and it's going to take us some time to hash through it.
Yeah, I think priorities, so what we should focus on and what we can realistically get done in our timeline for this year, and then some things that we can tackle more, give some more time to in the long run.
That seems like the sort of the next natural step is to get into those sort of get ourselves into those teams and sort of get going at those sort of things. And so I think we spent a good 30 minutes exactly, because I sat and talked at you and tap danced for 7 of those, and it's 2:37. So it feels like there's 30 minutes of good time as far as like to get us here. What I just sort of restate kind of what I was going to do, which was send out a little bit of homework to the larger group, because I mean, it's the end of the year. May 15th is a tough day. A lot of people graduating, a lot of people closing, a lot of people doing a lot of different things. You're either way ahead or way behind. Kind of, this is a weird time of year. So I'll sort of send out this form with the minutes here in the next couple days or so, and say, let's kind of think about getting in these groups, and then TJ and Tori can get to work on the instrument and those types of questions, and we'll kind of figure out how the three of us will sort of move and divide and conquer on that a little bit, so that we can kind of keep progress going. And then again, collect your who's coming to Orlando and who might we see in person, and do that. So I don't want to tap dance any longer. If there's not, there's just really 7 of us here in the room. So everybody feel good if we just ended it here? We're good here. Okay, that's what I thought too. So how about we just move this to email, and then we'll see you next time. I don't have another meeting on the calendar yet. That's sort of intentional to kind of see where we head with these 2 work streams, kind of how this meeting went today. So I didn't have the next one already booked. So Tori and Ben and I meet regularly, but we'll be back to this group here in short order. Okay.
Sounds good.
Good. All right. Well, we get to our weekends, everybody. I'm not quite there, but I hope you are. So Ben, do you have a question first? Oh, he raised his hand. Sorry. Good.
That was a mistake. Sorry.
Hey, get to your weekends or get to the next thing on your calendar, and then get out there in the sunshine or the cool weather, I suppose. All right. Take good care. All right, guys. Bye.